Stephen K. Bannon. He's the host of The War Room. This is the hottest show in not America, but the world. I mean, he's in China, he's in Hong Kong, he's in Europe. We get calls from Dublin, UK, France, Germany. Got the hottest show on the globe, heard on the John Fredericks Radio Network, 10 to noon, Monday to Saturday. He's also on the Dish Network on Channel 219 and part of Real America's Voice. You can get him there also. Now, he's got a second edition of his show from 5 to 6 p.m., and that is Monday through Friday right now through all this turmoil that is going on. So you got to check him out. Go to 5 to 6 p.m. He's on the John Fredericks Radio Network every day. Also, again, on Real America's Voice. And he's with us now, Stephen K. Bannon. Steve, great to have you.
Have me, John, and don't forget Australia. We're a huge show in Australia.
That's because, right, and New Zealand too. Australia, New Zealand. We've got.
Well, listen, like we said, it's the most important. You know, the flag officer sent a letter to President Trump supporting him back, and I think it was in September. Said this is the most important election in the history of the republic. But remember, it's also the most important election in 5,000 years of Chinese history. For all those Chinese, the diaspora throughout the world that are trying to stand up to the CCP and take down the CCP, this is a massively important election, if not the most important election they've ever had, and that's why there's global focus on this. And so that's why every day, through the help of you guys co-producing the show with us, we put it up there, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, and then 2 hours on Saturday. So it's gotten quite an audience. I think one of the reasons is it's just like you, we're trying to put forward information that's either not out there or not out there consistently enough from other sources. So we've had a good run, and like I tell people, we're going to go through the most intense 6 weeks between now and the inauguration day, or 4.5, 5 weeks. But particularly the intensity that's going to take place between now and the 6th of January in Washington, and obviously the 5th in Georgia is going to be quite intense. Even though I'm sure people will take a couple of days off for Christmas to celebrate the Christmas holiday, it's going to be quite intense over the next couple of weeks.
Let me ask you what is going on here, because I'm going to get to Georgia in a minute, but I want to start nationally, Stephen K. Bannon. And let's start with the reports that there was a meeting at the White House on Friday with General Flynn was there. We understand that this is according to Maggie Haberman of the New York Times. General Flynn was there, Sidney Powell, Mark Meadows, Pat Scipio, and others. And they discussed making Sidney Powell the special prosecutor for the election. Various news outlets say that was shot down. And, of course, we know what General Flynn's position is on what the president should do and seize these machines. It's hard to take everything we got that's credible, because I know there was one guy tweeting it out that I don't really think is credible, so I'm not even going to go there. But what do you think happened there? Where are they? And are the people in the White House, are they now around the president, Steve, are some of them more concerned with their own lobbying careers on K Street after, Biden becomes president, and so they're advising the president to not do anything, so they can go make money? Give us the scope of what is happening here.
I don't think. Listen, I particularly the people that are being singled out. And look, I'm always been known in Trump circles. And before I joined the campaign in 2016, on the campaign in 2016, in the White House, and then afterwards, I would say I'm the more I tend toward the more aggressive side of action. Mm-hmm. Pat Cipollone and Mark Meadows are as good a people as you're going to get. They are terrific guys, and they've always had the president and the country's interest in heart. It's just some people are just more aggressive, particularly given the time frame we have. I've been a big advocate of that. There's three things that has to happen here, particularly in Georgia. Number one, you got to commit today to stop the steal. You got to commit today to take action. We need action. We need action today, whether it's in Wisconsin, Arizona, or Georgia, particularly those three, because right there, the securing of the victories within our grasp, and you have to be very aggressive. Now, obviously, everything you have to do is within the boundaries of the law. I totally disagree with General Flynn, who I hold in very high esteem, about this whole thing about martial law and redoing the elections. That's just not going to happen. And it doesn't need to happen, as you see in Georgia. And I had a talk last night with a prayer group. In Wisconsin, Georgia, and Arizona, these are Republican-controlled legislatures. In fact, everything that goes up to the courts, if it ever gets to the Supreme Court, I believe we'll just toss it back to the state legislatures. And in those three states, we have incredibly compelling cases in three different verticals, right, of traditional voter fraud, of election fraud, of mail-in ballots, as you know, no chain of custody, and also this third element, which is the Dominion voting system, which to me is, I'd say, it's a free option. It's going to take a deep investigation to get there on that. No, I think look, and I've been a huge advocate of a special prosecutor immediately named on the election fraud and the voter fraud. How much of that will impact what we're doing now, I don't know, but it will certainly send a signal to people that are out there that, a special prosecutor will be there with subpoena power and the ability to indict people or go to a grand jury and indict people for criminal charges. I think it will get people's minds right about coming forward here and aiding and assisting this search for truth, which is all President Trump and President Trump's campaign is trying to do, is get to the bottom of this thing, right, and get the information out. And Biden and the Democrats have not helped at all in this regard. Also, I've been a huge advocate of a special counsel, special prosecutor for the Biden crime family, because here's what we're hurtling toward. We're hurtling towards a constitutional crisis. A constitutional crisis where now almost 50% of the American people believe, 46, 48, 50%, take the number you want, believe the election was illegitimate and illegal. We've never had that before in American history. That's very different than having major policy differences, even the differences with President Lincoln being elected in 1860, where no one questioned his whether it was legal or legitimate. They didn't like the results, and that's why they left they didn't want to participate, so they left the Union, and the Civil War occurred. So, but here you have a situation where almost 50% of the overall American people, and close to, I think, 90 or 95% of the Trump movement, and it looks like 80 to 85% of the Republicans think this was illegitimate and illegal. On top of that, you have a national security crisis because Biden has clearly been compromised by the Chinese Communist Party. Of all the evidence is out there, and that's why a special prosecutor needs to be named immediately so that you can get away from just people making charges and putting forward the evidence we have on the hard drive and other aspects coming forward, but get to some logical thing. I think that discussion did take place, obviously, if you read the press reports, and from what I know of Rudy and other people that were there and are brought in, was that discussion. The further discussion is what do you actually do about these machines today? And Ware County, Georgia, was one of the things that started this. And I believe over the weekend there's going to be more activity, or there has been more activity on machines in Georgia that you're going to come forward. There's going to be quickly coming forward with additional information. Congressman Gosar is going to be on the show, going to be in a war room at 10:30 today to walk through systematic analysis. He's had a team out there, I think with Andy Biggs, or he's had a team out there in Arizona for several weeks going through a very sophisticated data analytics exercise on the actual voting and the raw voting that came into the Secretary of State, and they've got some revelations they're going to be putting forward. And I think getting a venue in the House out there in Arizona and the Senate actually to move forward. Now, you saw in Maricopa County where they're fighting the subpoena, and the question gets to be, what are you hiding? Well, why you agreed to have a subpoena to turn over all of the Dominion machines, all the software, everything, give full access, and have a forensic audit. Then all of a sudden you agree that the Board of Supervisors was part of this agreement with the Senate Judiciary Committee. You agree that, and then 24 hours later you flip and you're going to fight it in court. So people are fighting on many fronts. These are all legitimate fronts. They're all legal fronts to fight. And I do believe there's some people around the president that are telling, hey, you either have to be cautious or maybe it's time now to even think about going in a different direction. Now, as you know, I'm adamantly opposed to that, as are others, because we know he won this election. It's very straightforward about how this can be presented, and particularly in Georgia. But you don't need to have the Insurrection Act, since you're talking about Republican-controlled legislatures, and in Georgia and Arizona, essentially Republican administrations. And this is, I think, the only thing that holds back between President Trump closing on his massive victory on November 3rd and not is just getting a hearing in an appropriate venue like a state legislature, an official hearing where the Democrats have every opportunity to go after the evidence and to attack the evidence that's forward on both voter fraud and election fraud, and the mail-in ballots and the lack of, as you've done amazing reporting, the lack of chain of custody of these mail-in ballots. That's over and above what happened in Pennsylvania overnight. We're going to have the revered John Eastman on the show. They filed actually the first, I think, really concise lawsuit about the constitutionality. Of course, Lynn Wood continues to attack in Georgia about this consent decree. So you have a bunch of different fronts. And the key to this is really, to me, going to be these governors and the legislatures. And you guys, more than ever, have shown how difficult this is, because the Georgia Star broke a shocking story on midnight Saturday about Ralston, the Speaker of the House down there, essentially lying to the president.
Yep.
and basically counting. This is the problem we have. The problem we have is cowardly politicians who won't stand up and do their constitutional duty. You know, I have not heard from President Trump, and I have not heard from one Trump supporter, and certainly not rooting anybody, saying that the state legislatures have to decertify Biden's electors or have to flip to Trump's. Everything I've heard is that they just have to have a special session where the evidence is presented. And we have an advocacy system. The Democrats have full opportunity to take it on and take shots. But like I tell people, if Michigan's any example, where you actually have a real hearing and the Democrats are there, to me, they if you look and go back and look at that, they did a terrible job of actually confronting the evidence. The Democrats do not want to confront the evidence. What they want to do is hide behind the propaganda wall of the tech oligarchs in Silicon Valley who shut people down, and the media firewall. They don't want to confront this evidence. And this is why Georgia is still essentially ground zero, because you can't get a hearing in Georgia, either at the state legislature or have the governor call a special session. A governor who's up there taking selfies at the White House, which I think is revolting, and it shows you his immaturity and his lack of a sense of place. For him to be up there on Friday taking selfies, trying to show like he's close to the president.
I mean, look, the Brian Kemp selfies at the White House was just embarrassing, and it was embarrassing that he got invited. I mean, the president called him a coward and a weasel and a backstabber, and then he shows up in the White House. He's taking selfies like, this is all a big joke. And I thought that was outrageous. If you got invited as a governor and you want to go, take pictures for your family. To be, tweeting him out it was in your face. That's why it offended me. It was like in your face. I've been down there for 6 weeks, busting my butt. He's screwing us over. He refuses to call a special session. He sold us out. And then he's going to the White House with his daughter doing selfies on Twitter. It's just in your face.
Let's take Arizona as a perfect example. One thing we know is that legitimate, concerted pressure on these politicians, right? Rallies, protests, emails, phone calls, has made a huge difference in Arizona. We've actually had the Senate, and remember, the legislature out there, a lot of these people are hardcore McCain people. They are not Trump people at all. The Senate Judiciary Committee met. They put these subpoenas out for Maricopa County to seize the machines. They also want a forensic audit done. You've got the House now is looking to meet, I think, today or tomorrow. What I'm told over the GOSAR analysis, which is quite revealing. And the reason is pressure from the Trump people to say, give us a venue. That's what we're asking for. Give us a venue and hear the evidence. Hear the evidence in a venue where the Democrats get a full shot to put on their counter arguments or to refute the evidence. And I think you're going to start to see this in Georgia. I think there's going to be intense pressure put on people in Georgia to provide a venue. And this venue, and we're burning daylight, because this has got to get done by the 6th, to make sure that we've got some that you can actually present evidence and then make a case for why these things should be decertified. I strongly believe that right now, the way we see it, and this is leaving the Pennsylvania lawsuit aside, I think the efforts on the indefinitely confined votes in Wisconsin is going very strong. I think there's a lot more efforts going on in Georgia right now than we even know. I think there's a ton of work going on in Arizona. I believe you're going to get the venues in Arizona and Georgia. I think you're going to see these things decertified. I think in Wisconsin it's going to be decertified, and I believe strongly this is going to a contingent election in the House, not where. All
right, so look, I've been in Georgia 6 weeks, fighting this battle. Walk me through. We got 7 minutes, Steve. walk our audience through, very specifically in your mind, how does President Trump get inaugurated again? What exactly? Give us the three things that has to happen.
I think number one, if you get it, right now, you have three buckets. You have three verticals in Georgia. You have hundreds of thousands of illegal ballots, right? Whether they were too young to vote, from post office boxes, illegal aliens. You pick it. Smith and Cleta Mitchell have done a great job of that. Then your second bucket you have with the work that the Georgia Star and others have done on the 1.3 million mail-in ballots. There's 500,000, 600,000 have absolutely no chain of custody, right? And then you've got the whole Dominion systems down in Ware County and other information that's going to be coming up on Dominion, I believe, from further analysis over the next 24 or 48 hours. You get a hearing at the Georgia Summit called by Governor Kemp, right? You present your evidence. The Democrats get to refute it. The House and Senate vote. You can decertify the Senate, the state legislature.
Okay, but he says he's not calling a special session for the electors under any circumstances. This is what Kemp is saying.
That's
and we can't get the signatures because Ralston, as we said in GeorgiaStarNews.com on our big story Saturday night, Sunday flip, that he lied to the president. He's not getting the 91.
Well, I think that by the way, I think those stories in this revelations on Kemp, and by the way, I think there's polling that's going to come out and show Kemp as his approval rating has plunged. He and Ducey are guys that believe they have political futures. They only have political futures if they stand up for the Constitution, if they stand up for this republic, and they stand up to have a fair and honest election. And the only way you can do that is let this evidence be vetted. If this evidence is not vetted, this is a wound that will not heal. Those 46 to 48, 50% of the American people that believe that the Biden is illegitimate and illegal is not going to go away. That's why we have a constitutional crisis. Forget his compromise by the CCP. Just the mere fact that, and this is what the information we have today. People have to understand more and more and more information is going to come out every day as investigations go on, because these investigations are actually in the very early stages. And so the Biden number is not going to get reversed. It's not going to get more legitimate. It's only going to get more illegitimate. That's why you're going to have a crisis of governance here in this country. And that's why I think the pressure on Kemp, we're sitting here talking on what the 21st, I think the pressure is going to get even more intense. And I think the governor is going to realize he has to do the right thing. He cannot just allow this thing not to be fully vetted, because there's actual hard evidence here.
What's our time frame?
I think my strong belief this has to happen between now and the 6th of January. The 6th of January, what Mo Brooks and Gates are talking about and what Tommy Tuberville is talking about in the Senate, that is a review in the U.S. Senate and the House, which an individual member can call to provide 2 hours of debate, 2 hours of I guess testimony, 2 hours of debate, 2 hours of actually going and vetting what happened in these states.
I don't see Steve. I don't see Kemp reversing his position. I mean, he's been steadfast. I just don't see him reversing his position. I mean, I see the only way to do this is getting this petition signed by 50% plus one. I don't think Kemp all of a sudden is going to get up tomorrow and say
your article on Saturday night is going along with that. My point is that keep all your options open and put pressure on both. The House clearly
I agree with that.
The House and the Senate have. Well, look, and that's all happening even as we speak. It's not like people are saying no, let's not focus on that.
Right.
I think the Ralston story was quite frankly shocking. I know people that saw it here in Washington were stunned that he could say one thing to the president and then turn around and actually do something. But that, as you know, you had been reporting that from the very beginning. So we're seeing it work in Arizona. In Arizona, you've had Senate committees. You now have a House committee. They've actually put a subpoena out to Maricopa County.
Right.
They're fully engaged out there in Arizona. Georgia, to me, is going to follow that because I think, quite frankly, they're going to see the poll numbers that they have to do the right thing. And the right thing is no one's making the argument they have to flip this to President Trump or they have to decertify. What they have to do is very simple. They have to provide a formal venue for the presentation of this evidence, and then allow the media and the Democrats to come. Then let's say it's baseless. Let's say there's no evidence and it's baseless. We know from the people working on this that there's a deep body of evidence here, both on the voter fraud, on the election fraud, and then obviously in this mail-in ballot fiasco. And I continue to say, you're not, just from a practical point of view, you're not going to win on the 5th until you lance this boil from the 3rd. You've got to address what happened on the 3rd to get everybody motivated enough to turn out on the 5th. And they're talking about a historic amount of money being raised by donors for TV ads down in Georgia. I think you know better than I do that I don't believe that's going to work with the deplorables. No. I think they're past that.
I think both these senators right now are at risk, right? You would agree with that, right? Both at risk. Yes. Trump is coming on the evening of January 4th. We're going to be down there, of course, for then our election night show all night. You'll be with us then on the 5th.
I think these senators today can't wait to the 5th. I think our 4th, whatever day it is for the rally.
What do they have to do?
I think they have to do 3 very specific things.
Okay.
They have to step up today and reiterate we need to call a special session. Kemp needs to call it, or the legislation needs to call it. They need a special session over this Christmas holiday to be called to hear the evidence, number one. Number two, they are committed, although Perdue, when he wins, won't be seated for a couple of weeks because of certification. That's just a technical issue. Both senators have to commit to stand with Tommy Tuberville and Mo Brooks, Matt Gaetz, and others to call for a full review of each state that's in question in the United States Senate and the House starting January 6th. They get their 2 hours each, right, for each. And number three, they have to have President Trump's back and call for the calling of a special prosecutor, special counsel for the election fraud and for the voter fraud, and a separate special counsel to investigate. They have to back the president and special counsel, special prosecutor in investigating the Biden family, and they're compromised by the Chinese Communist Party immediately. That has to be done because that's a national security issue.
So
I think if they do those three things, I think that the deplorables will not only come out to vote, I think you'll see deplorables knocking on doors saying we have to get these two guys in. I think that's what motivates the deplorables to say these people are with us. They've shown they're with us. Let's get out there. It's urgent that we get them to win in Georgia on the 5th.
So Loeffler's in a special. So if Loeffler wins on the 5th, she's seated on the 6th, okay?
Yes.
Not like Perdue has to wait till they get sworn in. She's seated, okay? Yes. So I've advocated to the Loeffler campaign.
Purdue's a couple of weeks.
A couple of weeks. But she's seated on the 6th. I've advocated to the Loeffler campaign that she simply come out and say, on January 6th, when I'm reelected, I am voting with Jody Heiss. I'm going to vote against certification of Atlanta because the alleged fraud and irregularities are just too much for me to bear. If she does that, she wins. Well, how hard is that? It's one sentence.
Yep. Well,
what is the problem?
I think this is the point.
What votes does she lose? Zero.
I don't believe their campaigns right now will get the reality on the ground. I think they have a different perception of the reality. That's fine. That's what they have consultants for, and that's what they have people that run their campaigns for. I think they have a different view of the reality. I think they're under the belief that the deplorables will show up just because they have to show up. I think that's and I think the consultants down there that are raising this money and putting TV ads up are telling them, hey, our mission to keep America is what's got them the deplorables motivated. They don't really care about the 3rd of November. They're past that. They're past this thing with Trump and have at it. I happen to be of a different point of view, and I very much want them to win. I think it'd be very difficult, number one. I think it'd be very difficult to basically implement what we want to try to implement in January if they don't win. So I think it's essential they do win. I just don't think the way they're going, they are going to win.
All right, Stephen K. Bannon, I want to thank you for your analysis of this. Basically,
by the way, thank you for your work, because it wasn't for you having this platform down in Georgia, it'd be even more difficult. But I think for all your listeners, applied pressure has actually moved the ball in Georgia. It's definitely moved the ball in Arizona. The Republican establishment out there, which hates President Trump, it's totally McCain oriented, is having an impact and pressure. Remember, Kemp doesn't exist if it's not for Trump. If Trump did not back Kemp, he wouldn't be governor. If Trump had not, and if this guy thinks he wants a political future, he has to understand he doesn't have to throw the election for President Trump. All he has to do is provide a venue to have this fully vetted and fully aired publicly, with the media and the Democrats taking every shot in a formal venue of is this real evidence or is it baseless?
He could call it. He could call it, and they could convene next week after Christmas and just show the evidence. And I'm telling you, we said this from the beginning, the evidence in Georgia is so overwhelming. These votes will never get certified, and then Wisconsin and Pennsylvania will fall and Trump wins. See, that's what they're afraid of, though. If you really get to the bottom of this, Stephen K. Bannon, that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid the whole thing is going to fall like a house of cards. They have a vested interest in getting Trump out of there, and they just want us to go away, and they don't understand the power of this movement, Steve, and that we have, and I'm going to say it again, I say it every day, this movement and the deplorables, it is so vast, it has eclipsed its current Republican leadership, and they're all going to go. Steve, I'm out of time. I hope you're right. I hope Governor Kemp sees the light, simply calls a special session to get the evidence out, because if he does, Trump is going to win. John Fredericks Radio Network, Stephen K. Bannon.
Brother.
Thank you, man.